confidence, being able to cope with pressure.
Referees need protection on the pitch in terms of respect. There's not enough respect for referees at the moment, and that is an issue in itself.
As we enter 2017, the stigma attached to referees has been stronger than ever. With the man in the middle receiving more criticism than ever before, I want to explore the motivation behind why young people choose to pursue officiating.
It's difficult when you're younger because it's hard to get respect. If you're refereeing people who are older than you, like at open age, which I did a few times, I found it difficult in that if I'm meant to be, I'm basically an authoritative figure, but if I'm younger than them and they're literally looking down to me on the pitch, it's like physically already I'm below them, and it's hard for them to respect me in that way because they don't see me as an authoritative figure at all.
I don't think that refereeing is an attractive profession for anyone at a young age because it is simply not what people want to do. Nobody wants to be that man in the middle that gets all the stick. If you're a kid as a child and you're watching TV and you're seeing referees getting slated in analysis for what they're doing, why would anyone want to do that? It's the same as, for example, if somebody slates somebody that works in a fast food chain. It's not a bad job, but because people slate it in the media, people aren't attracted to that sort of thing. And I think as referees, it's the job that it's an afterthought. If you finish playing football at, say, the age of 15, for example, refereeing is what you look to go into if you want to stay involved with the game. And that's something that needs to be tackled as well, because 7, 8-year-olds, 5-year-olds, whatever age you want to say at a youth level, there's no interest in them wanting to be a referee, because I don't think there's the understanding either of what a referee does and how important they are to the game.
When I'm refereeing, I try to stay away from the player as much as possible, in the sense of I'll keep my whistle out of my mouth as much as possible. I tell players, if you don't hear me, it's because you've done nothing wrong and you don't want to hear me. I'm just going to let you play football. The pre-match is one of the most important factors, because if you let the team know, let the captains know especially, how you're going to referee the game and what you're going to do, they'll expect that. And as long as you can keep that expectancy up throughout the game, there won't be much problems. But if you start making rash decisions or doing stuff differently, then players start getting you on your back, and then you start losing respect, and it doesn't help your performance, because then they start shouting and then you just get annoyed. It doesn't really help. But as long as you're able to talk to the players and keep up your confidence during the game, you'll be fine.
When I first started, I was very nervous, and the first couple of games I was quite nervous. But as I did more, I kind of got into it, and I think the whole idea of refereeing is to show that you're confident, even when you're not 100% on the decision. You have to give the impression that you're 100% on the decision, because the people on the field need to feel that you understand the game, you know what's going on. So even if you're not sure, I think that's one of the best things for a referee to do. And I think as I was carrying on doing more and more games, I kind of felt that I was getting better and better at it. And I didn't catch the bug, but I kind of found it interesting that I could kind of switch off and just be this person that I needed to be on the pitch.
Intimidation at lower levels, it's simple as that. I think I know more referees that have dropped out at grassroots level than I know that are still continuing. I think that's from my own personal opinion, but I think that's the case. There's a lot of loopholes and hoops that you have to jump through with the FA to referee, and that's putting more younger referees off doing it. And then alongside that, the cost to actually be a referee has rocketed in recent years in comparison to countries like Germany and Holland and Spain, for example. A referee's course in the UK is just totally different in terms of anywhere else in terms of cost. And you can say, for example, the likes of Mark Clattenburg is the best in Europe. Statistically, it's proven. He's refereed all the big games, but that's 1 in a million in terms of referees, and a lot of them will drop out at a young age due to intimidation from managers and the fact that there's so many levels you have to work up through, from level 8 towards the top level, where the likes of Mark Clattenburg is. That's a lot of money to be invested in, especially at a young age where money's tight as it is, let alone if you want to become a referee where there's so much backing that you need. I think it's the FA that aren't giving enough money in terms of, say, a bursary to say a referee to be able to complete a course or a sponsorship or a scholarship. There's nothing like that in place to be able to develop referees, and if that's in place, we'll see more younger referees in the game, and therefore consequently improve the standard of refereeing, because there's a bigger pool to pick from.
I think confidence is the biggest hurdle. I think once you've overcome the confidence issue, once you've passed your first few matches, then I really think you can get a run of games and you can really be confident within your decisions, and you can be much more comfortable on the pitch. I think that was the hardest thing for me. And it is just literally getting past them first few games, and once they're out of the way and done, then I think you'll enjoy it a lot more, and that's what I found anyway. I wasn't worried about my decisions. I felt like I was reading the game a lot better because I was a lot more comfortable, because I was coming across more confident.
It's easy to get into refereeing. It's not like football where there's the hot, like a million lads from literally primary school to secondary school want to be the next Lionel Messi or the next Ronaldo. It's easy. Like you don't ever hear people saying they want to be the next Mike Dean, the next Michael Oliver, the next Mark Clattenburg, the next Howard Webb. So it's out there, just people need to look at it and take into consideration, because more referees we have, the more experience people can gain in a way, because if people share their experiences, other referees can learn of others. Yeah, I do find it enjoyable. Sometimes like adult football, they just moan a lot. Kids football, it's not really the kids, it's the parents just moan a lot. But you do get good games where everyone's chill and no one's doing much wrong, and you're having a laugh and a joke. At the same time, they're playing seriously, but isn't it a good experience?
I once refereed an open age ladies game, which was absolutely terrible. Do you want me to tell you about the game? Okay. So in this game, there was one team who was absolutely battering the other team. It was something like 4-0 at half time. And basically I'd never done open age before, and I spoke to my mentor, who basically said that if they'll swear a lot, essentially, but they said if they're swearing within their own team, don't bother with it, just let them do their thing. If they swear to each other across teams, then obviously intervene. And so this team that were losing were like swearing a lot within the team, and I kind of ignored it and kind of just let it flow. And then at half time, one of their players swore so badly at their own manager that the manager left. One of their players took over as manager, and then in the second half of the game, they were swearing like furiously within themselves and towards me as well. And the other team were being supportive of me, but it kind of came across as I was being biased to them, even though I wasn't. I was being completely fair in my eyes, because this team could see how awful they were being. They were backing me up, so it was a really weird situation for me to be in. And right at the end of the day, I think the team ended up losing 6-0 or something. And at the end of the game, the players from the losing side all came and confronted me after the match, and this was it was quite daunting for me, because I was like 17 or something at that point, and I had like 25, 30-year-old women come in towards me who were taller than me, like shouting at me, and I kind of just told them how I saw it and told them the rules, because it wasn't like a conscientious decision, it wasn't like a controversial decision, sorry, that they were coming to me. They just weren't happy that they'd lost. I don't know, it was really strange, and some of the decisions leading up to it, like how I was playing advantage, and I think that happens sometimes. It's like the easiest person to blame is always a referee. That's the go-to guy to blame. It's not themselves, they always blame the referee, and I think that's what happened in that case. And essentially I just had to kind of take it, tell them my decisions, tell them why I'd done it, and then I left. But it was quite a bad day.
I think people go out of the way to target referees because, as it's mentioned, they are an easy target. I think it's the same with goalkeepers as well. If a goalkeeper has a good game, it's not even mentioned, but if a goalkeeper has a bad game, it's the back page of the papers. And it's the same with referees as well. If a referee has a good, quiet game, then nobody mentions it. No manager will go out and not happily praise the referee. But if a referee has a stinker, then straight away that's on the back pages. That's the stuff people are tweeting about. I don't think I've ever seen anybody tweet and go, oh, the referee had a good game today. Because it's simply, I don't know if it's not seemed socially acceptable to do so, or it's just the fact that it's that inconsistent, the refereeing, that nobody can find the actual moment to praise a referee when they're that inconsistent.
Okay, so I just want to show you this clip of an interview I got with like a football expert a couple of weeks back. I went to Oxford to interview him, and he gave his opinion on referees, and this is what he had to say.
Whether it's the referees or the people above the higher above, they're just not dealing with the situation that's evolving, which is the fact that standards are slipping and nobody's there to sort of say this is going wrong, we need to do something about it. I think that if you look at some of the officiating most recent in terms of the likes of Mike Dean and whatever, he's sort of built his own ego, and along with that it's come the mistakes as well. It's what happens with a professional footballer, it's what happens with referees. They're obviously getting paid a substantial amount of money as well in the process, and in fairness they're just not up to standard at the moment, and everything about the way they're refereeing isn't great. The spotlight is too much on them at the moment. It's bad enough when a referee makes one mistake, but it's even worse when you see in the media that they're talking more about the referees officiating than they are the game itself.
So essentially I agree with what he said. I do think that referees have become too prominent of a figure in football, and I think they should be kind of like not a silent person on the pitch. They obviously need to be there, but I don't think people should have to pay attention to them. I don't think football should even have to pay attention to them that much. I think it should just be if a question is raised or something, they just have the answer and then the game flows. That's essentially what they're there to do, is help the game flow and help it, complete. And I think in other sports like rugby and hockey, there's a lot more respect for referees, and the spotlight's not on them anywhere near as much. And it's kind of weird how this has come about in football, like you said, like Mike Dean and things like this, how they've got this kind of publicity through bad decisions and things. And I think everyone kind of makes mistakes. I don't know. It's a hard thing because it's their job, obviously, to make the right decision. But I do believe that, it's not always possible to make the right decision independent where they're stood or things like that. They can only do so much to be in the right position to make the decision. And if they're not, then it's kind of up in the air, and it's a really difficult situation for a referee. And especially if there's a huge spotlight on them, there's so much pressure, then the stress would be like unbelievable.
Just how hard it is. Just different angles, because when you're watching the game of football on TV, you got so many different angles, and as a referee you only have one, and depending on your angle you may get stitched up for a decision that makes you look bad on TV or bad in front of everyone else. But in real fact, if you had the angle that the referee had and saw that they can see it, maybe we shouldn't get so much stick.
The referee's job is ridiculously difficult. Going from a grassroots level where I am at level 7, it's a totally different ball game to Premier League, obviously in terms of pace and everything else, but the general scope of what actually happens is the same. You still get people abusing you, whether it's 50 people or 50,000 people, there's still people abusing you. You've still got 22 players in your ear the whole game. That doesn't change. I think that the thing that needs to be done from that sense is that referees need protection on the pitch in terms of respect. There's not enough respect for referees at the moment, and that is an issue in itself. Managers aren't scared to start throttling somebody in terms of shouting at them, especially when it could be, for example, a 15-year-old refereeing a game full of 16-year-olds, for example. There's a lot of intimidation at lower levels, and if that continues through the upper levels, it pulls a lot of referees away from the game. By pulling a lot of referees away from the game, it lowers the pool of people that can referee, and subsequently it means that the referees that get to the top are fewer and fewer and fewer, which means they're not as refreshed. For example, the likes of Neil Swarbrick, he's been at the top of his game for a long time. But for me, if there was more referees that were coming through the grassroots system all the way up towards the top, there'd be a lot more younger, fresher referees that are more up to date with the law, for example.
So I did a 2-weekend thing rather than a couple of week-long thing. Basically, I had training on one weekend where I would, I think this is how it happened, I'm not 100%, but I basically had like some practical exercises where they told us about, like, they went onto a pitch and they showed us the kind of movements and the gestures we had to make and the whistle blowing and things like that. And then we also had to take an exam as well at the end of the course to see if we had like the knowledge, essentially. So it was just an exam on like the rules of the game. And that was how I got to level 9, I think it was. And then after that you have to do like a set amount of games, and once you've done those games you can apply to go up. And you can go up to 8 if you're under 18, I think, or under 16, or you can go up to level 7 if you're older than that. And so I went to level 7. In terms of a mentor, they were meant to come to a match, but then I never actually saw them come. They never came to any of my matches in the end because they were busy with other things. I mean, that was one thing that kind of frustrated me a little bit. But I do feel like there's some kind of support mechanism there where they're trying to offer like a helping hand if you've had a bad day or something, and offer advice. But it's not something I've used too much myself. At the moment, you fill out a match report, but there's no one to talk to about it. I think if there was someone to talk to about just to reflect with, because at the moment you finish a match and the only people you speak to about the match afterwards is either the coaches or the players or family or friends, and they're all going to be biased with their own kind of views on the match, or like as you as a person, obviously. So if you had someone who's completely impartial you could speak to and reflect after the match, I think that would be so helpful.
If you want to get into refereeing, do it. And if you're already in refereeing, your own referee, you just started, just carry on and enjoy it while you can, and take everything with a pinch of salt, really.
Having spoken to Michael, Matt and Jordan, It has been eye-opening to hear the pros and cons that come with taking up officiating at a young age. Blooding the next generation of referees is more important than ever if we want to see an improvement in the English game, but that will only come with the support and the resources they need to make it to the top level.